Hey everybody, Lisa Kipps-Brown here. Welcome to Adaptable Entrepreneurs. If y'all saw the show Tuesday, you know that I have split the two nights into two different shows now. Thursday is still Adaptable Entrepreneurs, but Tuesday is now Disrupt Your Now with my co-host, a millennial Rachel Garrett Mercer. So check us out next week. We're going to have a military spouse on as our guest, an entrepreneur military spouse. But tonight, I want to welcome Rico Racosky, who just happens to be a military veteran as well. Well, not that I'm a veteran. My husband is. I'm a military spouse. My husband's retired Navy. But Rico was a fighter pilot, and then he was a pilot for Southwest Airlines. And, of course, y'all know you can't be any kind of pilot, much less a fighter pilot, if you're trying to figure out if you're making the right decision. You know, you have to make a decision and stick with it if you want to live. So out of that, Rico developed Just Two Choices, his program. And I'm not going to even try to explain it because I will just obliterate it. So Rico, I want you to introduce yourself and explain to us the program.
Wow, you're very kind. Great to meet you, Lisa. And thank you so much, Lisa, for today. Really appreciate it. Now, actually, all of these ideas, and probably the same for yourself, and probably a lot of people who are listening, watching the show. These ideas, they start really, sometimes they start really young, and they just kind of pop up. And I was one of those kind of kids that was a back of the classroom kind of guy. I wasn't causing trouble, but I didn't want to be up front because my grades weren't they're good, but I wasn't up front kind of guy. And so, I used to always wonder, and with no jealousy, just like, why are some people always accelerating in the academics, and you're thinking, here you are 16, 17 years old, and you can run through them in your head at your school too, and there's accelerating in sports, and I'm working my tail off, and I'm hanging in there. But, what is it that really makes life work? Mm-hmm. And I had two dreams. One was to be an artist, and the other was to be a pilot. And I initially got turned down by the Air Force.
Oh.
And so I was on my way to art school. And at the last minute that summer, I got a phone call and said, today you have to go and enlist in the Air Force if you want to take a chance at,
wow.
Getting school. But yeah, like right now, my mom I was working up in the mountains at a Boy Scout camp all summer long. She says, I got your clothes in the car because it's another 3-hour drive. And if you don't want to go, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
If you want to go, we got to go like right now.
I have chill bumps on my arms, Rita. Oh my gosh.
Well, and oh my gosh, for mothers, to think ahead, to think that. And so, long story made short, we made it, and I enlisted in it. We'd had to have gotten there pretty late because it was a 3-hour drive. We weren't sure where the airport was. Going through an Air Force Reserve Station, whatever that is.
No, really, you're like,
what? But on the back of the picture, my mom wrote 5:30 p.m., 28th of June, or something like that, whatever the date was. But 5:30 p.m. So I know I had to have had divine intervention because in those kind of positions, usually in the Guard and Reserves, with all respect, because I've been in both Guard and Reserves, at 4:30, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
So it was 5:30 when I had my hand up to swear in.
Oh my gosh.
And so there had to have been some divine intervention. Mm-hmm. Rolling forward, I ended up making it working in flight school, making it through flight school. And it was, I was asked to speak one time for some elementary school kids. Mm-hmm. And they said, yeah, come talk about flying and, goals and stuff like that. And I said, well, okay, I'm not sure how you talk to 4th and 5th graders.
Yeah.
But they were asking really, really, really fascinating questions and about how to go after their dreams and goals. And I said, look, I said, and I made this card up for tonight. Hopefully people will see it. I said, there are just two choices. See how I can bring this in.
Yeah, I can't see it yet. Move it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I said, I drew two arrows like that up on a board. Mm-hmm. I said, there are just two choices. One's going to take you up toward what you want, and the other one's going to take you down. It's going to take you further away from what you want. And so I just looked at him. I said, so if you want to improve your grades, you want to go into one direction. If you don't want to, or sports or anything that you want to do, you just got to keep making those choices that are in that, that
Yeah.
number one.
I love that, Rico.
I just drew it out, and they ended up, the kids got it. The fourth and fifth graders got it.
Yeah.
And then the light turned on for me. I went, oh, that's probably what happened, going back to the high school thing.
Mm-hmm.
They use their choices differently than I use my choices.
Yeah.
And so maybe they were more focused in some areas than in others, but it's all a choice. And I say this with a huge compassion for my parents. I mean, I grew up in a situation where alcohol is a big part of the family.
Yeah.
5 of us. And so there's a little bit of insanity, that went on.
I know what you mean. My family too.
Yeah.
We love them, but we're crazy. I'm crazy too. So.
But now you can talk about it. It's
right. Yeah.
And so, growing up in that situation, for the longest time, it was one of those things that perhaps maybe you've had that, or other people listening have thought, I'm going to be burdened with this for the rest of my life, and how do I work my way around it? And not to sound too simplistic, but yet to get to the point, there are just 2 choices. I either put my attention on my healing, or I put my attention on continuing with the pattern. And one day my mom asked me at dinner, I was flying for Southwest. I came home because I could come home for dinner, So I flew in one night. We had dinner, and she says, son, she goes, I don't understand it. She says, other members of the family are still, it's not that what happened growing up was easy for all of any of us. And she says, I'm sorry it happened. And she says, but you take it differently than the other siblings. What is it? And I said, Mom, I've learned, and I know this probably doesn't sound logical, but I have just 2 choices. I can either give my attention to my dream of flying and helping kids and writing books for kids and writing books like Just 2 Choices on positive things, or the only other place that time can go is to complaining about, what could have been, what might have been, what should have been, and all those other reasons. And I just choose not to. I choose to use my choices in the upward direction arrow. I choose not to use my choices in the other way. And I said, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But what other choice is there, to be in this situation that these others are still in, or to live my dream? And so it takes practice. And
it does, and it's constant work, isn't it? It's so simple, but it's constant work. About 30 years ago, somebody in my family that I love dearly was kind of complaining about an older family member, and she said, she was kind of blaming things that happened in her life on the past, how this person acted. And I said, you know what? At some point, our life becomes our own responsibility.
Exactly.
He did the best he could with the tools that he had.
Exactly.
That's all he could do. But you, now that you are at the age he was then, you are spending your life dwelling on the choices that you feel like he made wrong versus thinking about your own present and future. And it was like a light bulb came on for her. And because I didn't mean it critical of her. I mean, I had gone through that phase of, you kind of hold a grudge, but it is such a waste of time. And I this is hyperbole, but I said, if we're going to all blame everything on our parents or whoever that came before us, all of us just might as well go, well, if it weren't for daggone Adam and Eve, everything was great. We might as well just not even try, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
But it's so true of where you put your effort. But I love just the 2 choices. And I think that whether it's our own personal life or business, whatever, losing weight, getting in shape, starting a business, I think that we overthink it so much. And instead of thinking about the little things that we can control.
You see, now you're thinking like a pilot. Pilots are lazy. They don't like to overthink.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, don't make me overthink. Just
Yeah. But
give me
so,
some.
thinking about, you have to project a bit into the future and the big picture, but if you think too much about the big picture, you can't think about the choices in front of you and acting on them and making good decisions. And that's why I love your philosophy. I think it's going to really help me in my own life.
Well, and speaking of that, that's part of it. I was originally going to art school, and so I think in visuals. So flying was like the perfect thing. And as you probably heard, there's a lot of people who've become pilots where, the teachers are saying them, as you're looking out the window, they're saying, get your head back here in class. You're never going to find a job, where you're going to get paid to look out the window. Hey, pilots get paid to look out the window. That's like, I like that. So it's one of those things that I'm a slower reader, and or maybe I digest it more. But
Yeah.
I always wanted. I didn't want to, and I think I have one laying around here. I mean, it's just by accident. But oh yeah, here it is. No, that's only one of them. But I won't show you the title of the book. But
why not?
This is 400. This is almost 400 pages.
Yeah.
The word choice is in here somewhere. I have no idea where it is. But when I put this diagram, I'll try to get it right for you. This just two choices diagram.
Okay.
In front of in my brain. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know 400 pages in a book. I need to know that right now, yep, I'm in a tough situation. Am I going to make a choice that's going to go in the downward direction where the number 2 is? Or am I going to make a choice that it might not be as steep as that blue arrow going up there. It might be just a little bit above level, but which direction, it's about the direction. Which direction is my choice going to take me? Because every choice builds momentum. And as you were just talking about so well and so clearly, every choice is made in the present moment. I can't go back and unchoose what I just said. I can't go back or I can't project what is to be stated in the future. We only are in direction. I was going to use the word control. I'll use the word control. You're in control of now.
Yeah.
And so which of those two choices are we going to do? And it only happens now. It's not like, I'll make that choice 2 years from now.
Right. That, I have a book coming out sometime early this spring, probably March. I'm still haven't quite finished. But the name of it is Disrupt Your Now, The Successful Entrepreneur's Guide to Reimagining Your Business and Life. And I'm writing that Disrupt Your Now because so many people talk about, well, one day I'm going to do this. Yes. And a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years, or when I retire, I'm going to do this. And they forget that they could be doing things right now that would take them closer to those goals. And I believe that people that think like that, they think more like in dreams and they really don't think it'll ever happen. Whereas if you're actually acting on things, even if it can't happen right now, it's taking you closer to it. And so what you're talking about really dovetails with that.
Well, I love the title, and and the other thing that inspired my thoughts here is there are 3 phrases that I use constantly because I live this stuff. I mean, I wrote about it, but it's life, it hits you. And so there's 3 phrases that I like to use, and if people are listening and might want to write these down, because in a matter of moments, you'll be able to put yourself into the understanding that that all of us, like it or not, are connected to every single choice.
Yes.
And so the first phrase, if I'm being soft on myself a little bit, is I'll say, I choose to wear this blue shirt today. You chose to wear that. I say, I choose to, and whatever I'm looking at, and you'll get tired after about 3 minutes, but you'll go, I choose to look at the cabinet that's on the wall. I choose to look at the bricks behind me. Mm-hmm. I choose to wear this blue shirt. I'm going to do this. I choose to stir my coffee. the reason it's so important to say I choose to is choice is the bridge word that is ownership.
Yeah.
It's ownership, for what you're doing. And so I don't know where that came from, but anyway, where that's where the ownership comes from. I'm choosing. I mean, this shirt just didn't pop on, but after saying it for about 5 minutes, you start to go, "Oh, this is silly." But then you start to recognize, "Oh, I chose to roll through the slop sign. I chose to, it's all choice." Now, the second phrase, if I find myself getting stuck, I add a couple words to it, and it says, I like with technology. I'm so glad. I like this style. This first time I've experienced it. I love this style, and I have to tell you that before I was listening to my old story, which was, oh, geez, what's this new style, another style I got to learn, And so the phrase is, I choose to tell my new story. So if you're walking by the refrigerator and you're thinking about popping in and grabbing something and you're still working on your weight loss, then you say, I choose to tell my news story of how I just walked past the refrigerator.
Oh, that's awesome.
I choose to tell my news story about how I'm a hot fudge sundae guy. How, I only ate part of the hot fudge sundae. I didn't eat the whole thing. But it's always, since there are just two choices, you're either going to tell, and I'll put it back up just for the heck of it, but
to remind us,
you're either going to tell the new story in the blue direction or the old story. And guess what happens? The people you were talking about in your family, and people in my family, they're in their old story in a downward direction because they choose it all the time. One of my favorite quotes from I just happened to catch it in an old Star Wars movie, and I actually had to play it back. I had to play it back a couple times to actually get Yoda's true quote on it. But the point was that Luke asks Yoda, he says, "Is the dark side stronger?" And Yoda says, "No, quicker, easier, more seductive." That's what those downward arrows are. Whether it's weight loss, whether it's, oh, there you go again in a relationship. When you say that statement to somebody, oh, there they go again. Or in business, I'm tired of working with this person, or this customer has always been such a pain. That's the old story, but you're building, it's quicker and it's easier to fall back into that position. And so my point is, it takes effort, as you brought up in the very beginning, it takes effort to tell your new story. It takes effort to when you wake up in the morning, how many of us wake up just overwhelmed? Well, I have no idea where I'm going to start. And if I'm in my short mode of those three phrases, I just go, Rico, you know how this stuff works. It's just two choices. And dude, just two choices. Pick the new and better choice. Pick it now. Quit crying. And in a matter of a couple of minutes, even if it just means go brush your teeth. Get something started, but get yourself started in that upward.
One little thing, just one little. It comes down to micro choices. If you take one little, like you were talking about the hot fudge sundae, it doesn't have to be, I'm not going to ever eat another hot fudge sundae, or I'm not going to eat this hot fudge sundae. It can be, I'm going to eat all of it but one bite. I'm going to leave a bite in there. It can be like that. And I think that I think it's human nature to kind of be all or nothing. Now, I've got to start doing that to myself in the morning, though, because I'm not a morning person. And I will find myself, even though in life overall, I'm very positive. I'm glass half full all the way. But I have a really bad habit of waking up in the morning and going, I don't want to get up, even if I've gotten enough rest. And then I'll go, oh my gosh, what if you couldn't get up? Stop saying that, So I need to start using that on myself.
Well, I use it on myself all the time till I catch myself saying, starting down a negative track, and I just say, let's flip that thinking, and then of course the mind, Jedi mind trick, which is, oh, you're such a fool. You're such a fool for believing that, by telling yourself something positive, you're going to dig yourself out of this hole. But when I remember the diagram, it's like, I'm not a fool, because I already know what a choice looks like. That's the difference between between this with a word and the difference between that is a visual. Visuals teach, so this is my art stuff coming out, visuals teach 60,000 times faster than words.
Oh, definitely.
60,000. So why should I believe my mind saying you're full of crap looking at this book when I can believe something that's 60,000 times faster of a response?
Yeah.
And there's a reason they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is what I carry in my head. And so when it comes down to those tougher choices, it's like, pardon me, you know how this shit works, Rico.
I'm an extremely visual person, which is kind of ironic because my father was blind. But the things that I remember and learn, I immediately will visualize in my head if I'm trying to remember something. And just an everyday example of something that shows how visual I am, I'll run into people that I knew growing up that were friends of mine, but sometimes I can't remember their name because I knew their name and I didn't, wasn't having to read it. But I will see people that I didn't know at all, but looking at the yearbook growing up, looking at the yearbook so much and looking at pictures and reading their names, where I didn't read the names of the people I knew, I will see people who weren't even in my class that I haven't seen. I'm 59. I haven't seen them in 41, 42 years. And their name will pop in my head. It is so bizarre. Oh, here's my friend, Amy. I want you to say hi to Amy. Amy is a veteran of, correct me, Amy, if I'm wrong, Army and Air Force, I think. And her husband is also a veteran, but he's active duty too. They both have 2 branches of service. So Amy is my buddy.
Thank you for both of your services.
Yeah, she's awesome. I first met Amy through, I believe, the NASCAR team, I believe. But then we're also friends through our business coaches group. But it's just, and for a long time I was like, how can I remember somebody's name that I wasn't even in band with? I wasn't in the Air Force. I wasn't in band with. I wasn't on the basketball team. They weren't in a club with me. How can I remember their name when I didn't know them at all? But somebody that I might have even gone on to college with, I can't. And it finally dawned on me, it's because when I see them, I see their name in my head. It's so bizarre. Okay, Amy was Army and Navy Reserves. So, and her husband is still, whatever he was, he's active duty now, and he was in something reserves. So between the 4 of them, they have everything but Coast Guard, I think. They can start their own war, I guess.
At least a pool game.
Yeah, that's right. But Rico, so okay, we know how you started this, or how all those years ago with those kids, and kind of a light bulb came on, and you started adopting that thinking in your mind. How did you end up taking that and turning it into a business?
Well, first of all, the Just Two Choices idea really became very clear as a pilot. So before I talk to the kids about it, it's obvious in aviation.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's obvious. You're either on speed or you're not. The jet's either performing the way it should be, or you got to make a correction. Or it's always a Just Two Choices moment.
And it's going down.
Yeah. And so that kind of logic is kind of how it originated, and then it spread out, into working with the kids. And then I was literally had the idea of of doing, this was more of a high school kind of a thing. And before the elementary came into it. And when that elementary teacher came in and asked me to come in and speak to her kids about it, I said, this seems a little abstract.
Yeah.
Talk to them about flying, because if you took your helmet and you took your flight suit and your G suit and stuff like that, it was easy to get them interested in technology too.
That's true. Yeah.
It's for STEM education kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM
Right.
education. So I knew it could have a double benefit just helping out the local school. And what the day before I had been working with high school kids, and the only question I got in public, now they'll come down and they'll talk to you after you're done talking.
Yeah, but they're going to be cool the rest of the time.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So the only question I got from the high school kids was, "Did you ever puke?" Which is common, but after it was over, that's when the elementary school kids came down, and I said, that just seems too abstract. But sure, I'll give it a try. And their eyes got like that big, and they went, "Oh no, they're going to understand." Well, so here I am standing in an auditorium in a really, really small town. For those of you who are from Michigan, it was in St. Louis, Michigan, up in the Mitten.
Okay.
Hands are, where it is, up in the Mitten area. And if it was just like 4th and 5th graders. And let's just say there were 200 kids. I just introduced myself and I said, "Hey, any of you guys or girls got any dreams or goals?" It was like being at a football game with a wave. There were 400 hands, 200 kids, 400 hands.
Aww.
And in high school, did you ever puke? Is the only, it's the only thing.
The ones haven't had time for their spirits to be crushed yet. And you're not afraid that they're going to look not cool or whatever.
So I looked and I still have the letter today. I still have the letter. She wrote me a letter, the girl, and I said, pointed to my left, top part of the bleachers. I said, "What's your name and what's your dream or goal?" Now this is rural Michigan, okay, and I was not expecting any of this. And she says, "My name's Jill, and I want to be the team doctor for the Detroit Pistons." "And what's your name? What do you want to do?" "Well, I want to be some kind of an architect." "What is it in 4th and 5th graders? What do you want to do?" I mean,
that's so awesome.
It just rolled off their tongues.
Big dreams.
Yeah, big dreams. There's no resistance, no anything. And at that moment, that's when I said, I really underestimated, because I thought maybe junior high would be the level that I could enter at. And at that particular point, I started working exclusively with elementary school kids because just exactly what you said. Their dreams and goals they're just so alive. And you say just 2 choices to them, and they go, "Yeah, I watched too much TV last night." You say just 2 choices to adults. Prove to me there's just 2 choices.
Exactly, and they're like, "No, life is complicated."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know how much simpler it can get than just 2 choices. It's, you do realize that it's binary thinking. You do realize that. I'm talking in general, that every computer runs off of either a 0 or a 1 strung together. You do realize that just 2 choices is either a 0 or a 1. You're not selecting 0 and 1. You do realize that the father of the information age, Claude Shannon, who discovered using either on or off switch, a 0 or a 1, instead of using mechanical kinds of things in a machine that weighed 100 tons, has changed the world.
Yeah.
It's too complicated. But for the kids, it's just like, nah, that's all right. You're right. I got to take maybe like those other ones. And so that's where when I started focusing on books for kids and working with.
This is off topic from that, but Michigan, our NASCAR drivers' parents are from there.
Oh, are they?
People who are listening who aren't familiar, I'm the pro bono marketing strategist for the only NASCAR team that races to combat veteran suicide. And we promote veteran and military spouse-owned companies. So both Colin Garrett is the driver in NASCAR Xfinity Series. Both of his brothers are active duty Army, but both of his parents grew up in Michigan. So were you living up there working, or how were you up in that area?
Well, yeah, at that time I transitioned from active duty, and now I was flying in the Guard, which is actually goes back to your question of how'd you get into it.
Okay.
I was on, you understand this as military people in careers, and that you love doing, but you're going to have to do a staff tour, you know, and I was assigned a staff tour. And so fortunately it was only a 1-year assignment. Everybody's expecting you to stay on for an additional 2 years, but I took it because it was just a 1-year assignment, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to, what my next level of play was. You know, I love the military, don't get me wrong. Just I didn't. But this is where I started to get these ideas about books for kids and stuff while I was on that staff tour. And it was at that moment where I saw I had a chance. I could switch to the Guard, and I could fly A7s and F-16s, and I could still write books as a possibility. And believe me, my high school English teacher about died when I called her one day, and I said, sister, I said, could you help? I went to a Catholic school. I said, could you help me out? And she says, what's that? I said, well, I could use little grammatical corrections probably. She says, yes. And I said, well, I wrote a book, Nurse Dead Silence.
Oh my God.
She goes, I mean, she's a great teacher. And she goes, you wrote a book? I said, sister, you know, I like Leon Uris's phrase from Trinity and Exodus, who flunked English 3 times. He said, writing has nothing to do with English. That's what he learned about. Said, so I need your help with English, but not with the writing of the book. So would you grammatically, check for?
That's funny.
I did.
So you've written, is it 2 children's books you've written so far?
I've written 3.
Okay.
And the first one was D plus A equals R, which is an abbreviation for the formula dreams plus action equals reality. Story to that. But I thought high school kids was the way to go. And I didn't think that a dreams plus action equals reality formula, since I was self-publishing, no major publishers can let you call your book dreams plus action equals reality, so I just had to do it on my own.
But what, self-publishing is better anyway. That's a whole nother topic. But
I'd love to talk more too about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Well, I abbreviated it for the high school kids for D plus A equals R, and then I learned more through interacting with schools and saw the elementary, and so I expanded I gave the elementary school kids the full formula. Literally dropped working with high school kids. Nothing negative. It's just that the elementary school kids, and I've worked on with the Cherokee and the Navajo and let's see who's else. Cherokee, Navajo. The others will come to me of several Native American places, and inner city, suburban, rural. And what's fascinating about those year groups of children is it didn't matter. You could be out in a Sioux reservation. Somehow all these kids know. Somehow they know about all the space stuff. Somehow they know about all the art stuff. Somehow they know, they all know about these, I'll say, same or similar dreams and goals. They just don't know a process,
right,
or how to get there. And so I've been just so literally in tears just watching the dreams and goals of some of these kids.
It has to be so rewarding for you to be able to affect children's futures in such a dynamic way.
I do. I just really feel blessed. A real quick story. A little girl was having trouble during a goal setting, and 4th or 5th grader, and she was just sitting there quiet by herself. And I went up to her and I said, because the exercise only takes 10 minutes, So I said, can I help you with something? Or she said, I don't have any dreams or goals.
Oh.
I said, you don't? I said, nothing. I said, is there anything that you like to do, you think, you have fun with sometimes? And she says, I like to draw art a little bit. And I said, where do you, if you were at your favorite place and you wanted to draw, where do you picture yourself right now? Like, what part? I mean, is it in a mountain? Is it by a lake or whatever? She says, and she just went right into it. She goes, oh no, I'm near the ocean. I mean, she didn't even hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I'm right near the ocean. I said, is it sunrise or sunset? What kind of day is it? She goes, it's sunset. And I said, what do you see? And she talked about, like footprints in the sand and different things like that. I said, I think you found it. I said, that's for you. Let's paint that. Let's start off with that as your number one. So you saw that on a regular basis with kids. I mean, everything from kids who are excited about being roofers,
Yeah.
excited about being in construction or being an being an electrician, all the way through. It wasn't just astronauts and lawyers and doctors, and all that kind of stuff. And
helping children find a purpose. That you're gonna make me cry. And if I did what you did, I would be in tears all the time, because it's just so interesting to be able to touch people's lives like that.
And the challenge and the challenge is that because sometimes after school, I put the list up for all the teachers to see, hundreds of them, like 100 dreams and goals. And they go, those are our kids? Or parents would be there too. And they said, those are our kids? I'll go, they are. I said, the key is you have to make it safe. It's no different than adults. If you don't make it safe, it doesn't matter how high level the meeting is, and who's at that meeting. If it's not safe for someone to be able to express in a polite way, a respectful way, what you're really feeling about improving your business, about helping out within the family, they're just going to sit there and they're not going to tell you. Well, they'll give you an answer if they have to, but it's not going to be a truthful answer. But and so that's how you get the best dreams and goals out of kids. Is you make it safe, and you say, here we go. We got 10 minutes. We're going to make this thing work out.
So cool. Make it safe for them to open up their vulnerability. Now, do you do work with adults also and entrepreneurs, or specifically with just children?
Well, I've moved into the Just Two Choices space. As I was flying more and more Southwest, I got away from working with the kids. And because I was bringing this Just Two Choices book out, I've been just kind of surprised at the different mindset, because I'm so used to 4th and 5th graders going, yeah, just two choices. Let's do it, and you bring it up to adults and they go, so what? Just two choices, so what? I mean, and so part of it is me and having to learn how to get the messaging, getting the messaging correctly. I mean, obviously there's just two choices in quality control. I just talked to a business who made that choice. The person in quality control made the downward arrow direction, sent something back that he just tagged it as serviced. It was unserviced. They lost a $450,000 contract.
Oh my gosh.
So can you imagine now if you could for me, now having to think business instead of kids, you bring in the Just Two Choices diagram and you say, this is what we believe in this upward arrow that pays everybody's salary and makes us a well-known, respected, comfortable company.
Yeah.
We went and then have examples of what's above the in the blue line area, then have examples of what's below and say, these are unacceptable choices. If you run into that choice, even if it's going to cause a month's delay, we need to stop the train and figure this out, because it's going to torpedo in Navy terms.
Not taking the delay will be way worse than taking the delay.
Absolutely. So I have to reframe it. I have to learn how to reframe it.
My husband, before I met him, he was the jet shop manager for the jet shop at QB Point in the Philippines, the Navy's largest jet shop in AIMD, Aviation Intermediate Maintenance. I'm sure you know what. So I assume they call it the airport. But when he got there, they wanted him to come there because they were in crisis and they'd had like a lot of engines fail and everything. And first thing he did when he went in is just shut it down. He's like, we're going to shut it down. We're not going to let anything else go out until we figure it out. Of course, people had a cow. You can't shut it down. And he's like, do you want to shut it down, take a few days or a couple weeks, or do you want somebody else? You want to end up with somebody dying, So it's kind of the same type of thing. Talking about helping entrepreneurs, well, even children. I have some really cool virtual conferencing software that we should do a workshop or something together.
I'd be honored.
It's really cool. It has like a virtual lounge that people can network and you can, then you have sessions and you can share your screen or show videos. You can take questions from people. It's really cool.
I'd be honored.
Just explore some ideas. Now, do you still work with children, or are you pretty much doing all adults now?
Well, right now I want to move the Just Two Choices message out. I mean, I think there's some good. I've been getting some good reframing examples. I'm learning about this business. I've already invested in, and already invested in. So it's like, okay, I'm going to work with that. And then, but as I work through that program, obviously I can model it into the dreams plus action equals reality,
right?
Version. The one
really
book
applies to everybody, Rico. It doesn't matter if you're a child, if you're or an entrepreneur or an employee or a family member. I mean, it really, really can apply to anybody. So it's so simple if people really think about it, but it's simple in a profound way, which is the beauty of it.
Well, that's one of my goals is that there's a theory, and you probably have heard of it. I heard it was back in the 1950s, called the 100th monkey. And so the 100th monkey was that supposedly, legend is that on an island in the Pacific, they taught monkeys to wash, I'll call it a potato for simplicity's sake, to wash it before they ate it, And when the 100th monkey on that island washed the potato and everybody caught on, monkeys on other islands were all washing potatoes, even though nobody swam over and taught them how to wash potatoes, how to wash that potato. That, going back to it's interesting how a lot of things are invented around the world at similar times.
That's true. Yeah.
We're talking about consciousness, connectivity of consciousness. And so the mathematical, I read it in spiritual books, but I've seen it in several different places. The mathematical equation is when 1/10 of 1% of a population gets it, everybody gets it. Yeah. And so if you have 8 million people in the world, when 1/10 of 1% of 8 billion people in the world gets it, I only need 8 million people to get the Just Two Choices idea. Not 8 million books sold, which I wouldn't complain about. But I mean, I wouldn't turn that down. But it's just like the Uber effect or everything else going viral. It reaches a certain critical mass, just like in a nuclear explosion. It reaches a critical mass, and everything goes. So my goal is really to reach 8 million people and see if that formula is pretty close mathematically, for getting the idea of, hey, there are just two choices. And if I could add one more thing, there's I look back at my family raised, and the insecurities and the self-doubts, and all those things were choices.
Yes.
They were choices that I continued to, not knowing any better. I chose to model what I had seen that was around me. So could you imagine what we could do with people who are under anxiety, and depression, maybe not as far as, as the suicide side, but to get them to realize that here's another choice to make. Here's
Yeah.
another choice that can take you further up instead of deeper into your anxiety or into your depression or whatever, however those terms are defined.
Yeah.
And so it goes across, it just cuts across so many different things. One of the things Herb Kelleher, one of the co-founders of Southwest Airlines, used to say, and I love the phrase. He was just such a fantastic leader. He'd say, the problem with the airline industry is the airline industry thinks they're in the airline industry.
Yeah.
The airline industry is in the customer service industry. And so
Yeah.
if we can teach people to use their just two choices, the business of hospitals and medical fields is not hospital and medical field. It's customer service. The business of churches isn't churching, it's customer service. The business of government isn't.
I was going to say government. I wish that.
Yeah.
I wish sides would think of it that way.
Yeah, and it's about, it's about customer service, and there are just two choices. People say, well, how do we get extraordinary customer service in our business? Well, are you making extraordinary customer service choices?
Mm-hmm.
No. Well, then you can't. You shouldn't be surprised that your business is mediocre if you're making mediocre choices, or your performance is mediocre, in a particular sector.
I feel like I could talk to you all night, Rico.
It's the same here. Well,
7:08 time. You're in, what are you, Mountain Time?
It doesn't matter. I'll talk all night. Let's
go. The three things again, so that everybody can. The
three tips to keep in mind are: start to say out loud to yourself or in your head as you do something, no matter what you touch or reach to or look at, and say, I choose to.
Okay.
Add the word choice, because now it connects you to what you're doing. You just didn't reach for something.
Yeah.
And the reason the choice isn't used all the time is it would be it'd be used in every sentence, because everything's a choice. I mean, imagine Shakespeare saying, I choose to be or I choose not to be. Just doesn't sound right. Just doesn't have the same effect. Right. So I choose to. And in a matter of minutes, you'll get so tired of saying it, but it'll elevate your, your interest and choice.
You're aware of what you're doing.
Exactly. And then if you find yourself stuck, I say you're only stuck once, because as soon as you say you're stuck, then you're stuck. So why keep saying you're stuck?
Right? Yeah.
So I choose to tell a new story. I choose to tell my new story, or a new story, and just make it up, just right then and there. What my new story is: I'm only eating half the hot fudge sundae, and then just only eat half of it, and say, that was really good. And even if you go next Tuesday and you have another one, tell a new story. Tell a new story about it. And then the last one is, it's just for cutting right to the whole meat of the whole thing, and say, like, just two choices. Just kind of like give yourself a little bit of smack on the side of the face. And get
Fuck up. Yeah. Why are you making things so complicated?
Yeah. Well, I have some free downloads if people would be interested.
I was going to say, tell people how they can find you and how they can connect with you, and if there's anything that you want to offer them for free.
Oh yeah, there's the diagrams that I was showing. Let's see where I had the one thing. Put them both here. Well, one of them is there's three downloads, and two of them is just I just never grew up, I guess. So
I grew up. Grow up.
One of them you print out is and I'm going to show you the small version. It's an open close sign.
Oh, okay.
So when you download it, you cut it out, and you can see the holes up near the top. Okay. and it
Yep.
has open, and it has closed on the other side.
Oh, okay.
But hang up the open sign. It says, I'm open to making new and better choices. I'm new to having new and better relationships. I'm open to, and so it has like 6 suggestions to remind yourself to say open to.
That's
If you
cool.
turn it around to the other side that says closed, it says turn it around to the open side. So
You know what that would be good for as a phone wallpaper.
great idea.
I'll put a screenshot of some kind of whatever message I want, and I'll make that be my wallpaper.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like a couple months ago, my coach, Steve Sims, we were talking, and he goes, "What's the point? Everything you do, what is the point?" So
Yeah.
I had a photograph of me and him from an event we were at, and I put below it, "What's the point?" And it was my wallpaper on my phone. So every time I picked it up, I had to look at Steve asking me what. It just made me, so that would be cool to use that for that though.
And it accelerates it, And then the other one is if you keep finding yourself getting pulled back into old behavior patterns, I call it Captain Hook you. My old behavior pattern, although I've never made a hand gesture, was getting frustrated in traffic.
Yeah.
And somebody cuts you off, and and I used a lot of those kind of words. I never gave anybody a hand gesture.
Yeah.
But after a while, I finally got tired of it. It's just like, I'm the one who's making. I know how just 2 choices works. I'm the one who's making me upset. It's not the other guy. No, nobody got hit. Nobody got hurt. And so I call that Captain Hook ya. I would get hooked back into my old way of doing things. And so I created it's another one you can cut out when you download, and I'll try to do it correctly.
Oh, I like that.
And so it just reminds you, am I going into the same old relationship, the same old weight loss, the same old business decision? Am I allowing myself to get hooked instead of thinking about that new story? See up in the top corner there, It says, tell the new story. And sometimes people say, well, that's crazy. And well, the only way to tell a new story is to tell a new story. You can't make a new story out of an old story by telling an old story all the time.
So tell me, where can they get those at?
And then you can get chapter 1 of the book, and that's all you need. I'll be honest.
Tell them where to go get it. Tell them where to go get it.
Okay, just it's an older link, but it'll be just 2 choices with the number 2 .com/radio.
Okay.
I'll change it to whatever.
I'll put it in the show notes also. So that's awesome. And the thing about driving, my husband does that. He'll kill me, but he does that. He lets other drivers get to him. And I'm like, well, first of all, what about all the things that you do wrong? What if, you're just too slow or too fast, whatever. But then I also tell him, you don't ever know what's going on in that person's car that might be causing them to do whatever, to not go when the light turns green or whatever it is, or going really slow down the road. Maybe they don't know. Maybe it's an old person that can't see well and they're not sure where they're supposed to turn, or, and that, so I'm like, just try to always think about it from the other person's viewpoint.
Right.
And maybe you won't be so angry.
Yeah. And as you're talking about these simplicity things, like you were talking about putting on your phone and stuff like that, there are just so many truisms that have been around for so long. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I had somebody say to me, what are you going to say to somebody if they say to you, just 2 choices is just too simple? And I said, I'm going to sound like a smart aleck, but I said, I'm going to say just 2 choices. Because you can choose to make life as simple or as complicated as you want. It's just 2 choices. And so, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. No matter how simple any of us make anything in life, it all comes down to that choice point.
Yeah.
In that very moment. And nobody can force anybody to.
Yeah. And do people want to improve or not? Or are they happy being stuck and happy being able to complain about things because that's the comfortable position in life. It's not risky to stay there and just whine and complain.
That's a good way of putting it. I'll have to remember that. That's a great way to put it.
Well, not to get all whatever, but my father was blind, and I literally, and he was not a saint by any means. He was a very difficult man to live with. He held us to a really high standard. Felt like nothing we ever did was good enough. But I literally never, ever, ever heard him one time use being blind as an excuse for not doing something or not doing it well. I mean, he rode horses. He had a woodworking shop, a lathe, and all this stuff. Shotguns, played basketball with us. And one time, the principal of my school came over. This is totally off topic, but the principal of my school came over to use Daddy's lathe, and he was so worried that my father was going to cut himself that he cut the end of his finger off because he was paying attention to what my dad was doing. And my father literally never cut himself. So as children seeing that example, like I said, Daddy was very, very hard to live with. But on the flip side, we had this leading by example that we knew that I never, ever, one time, ever heard him use being blind as an excuse for anything. So that was a gift he gave us.
Well, he had somebody make a comment. They were looking at a family photo not long ago, and they said, "Oh, your grandfather had a disability." And I said, "What?" So your grandfather has a disability. He's missing his right arm. He lost it in a coal mining accident. I said, that never crossed his mind. That never crossed my mind. I didn't even know what he was talking about. And so somebody would say, "Oh, your father had a disability. He's blind." And it's like,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, we knew he was blind, but we didn't think about it. My best friend in high school had been coming to my house for 2 months and didn't know he was blind. My kids don't tell people what color my eyes are and, whatever. I didn't even think to mention it. She'd been coming over like 2 months, and we were in like 10th and 11th grade, and some other high schooler said something about Daddy being blind, and she goes, "He's not blind." And I said, "Yeah, he is." Like he was blind. And I am not putting down anybody that has certain hand motions or anything, because everybody's different, but you couldn't tell that he was blind through his mannerisms. And he was not born blind. He started losing his sight when he was 8 years old, but and one time he was in the Lions Club, and, they raised money to help with like corneal transplants and stuff like that. And we used to always work the white cane sale day where, people would donate money towards it. And he had on those huge sunglasses, the fake fun sunglasses that are like this wide. And these 2 little girls came up. They had no clue who he was. They had no clue if he could see or not. One of them goes, "He can't see through those glasses." And the other one goes, "Oh yeah, he can. He can see real good." Daddy ever, But anyway, this is totally off topic, but it does go back to attitude and making choices of, how do you want to approach life? Do you want to use things as an excuse, or do you want to? I tell people with COVID, don't use COVID as a reason, not as an excuse, not to use it as a reason to do something. So that's an example.
Can I add one thing? We have to have time for one more.
Yeah, sure.
The other thought that crosses to mind is, you have, and I say this with huge respect, for Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill and Norman Vincent Peale. I mean, they kicked this thing off in the 30s, with positive choice and back then, or make positive action. Actually, let's keep it that way. And so they started that positive action movement. And one of the things that's interesting is that that's the next step. I think we are in a whole new era. We're in we're in a choice era that's just based on it's just based on this.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, let me all I have to do is choose to touch a button. I mean, how much simpler is that? I
It's
mean,
harder and harder to make excuses, isn't it, when things are right at our fingertips?
and that's what raises, I think, us from, because an action is a choice, as I see it.
Yeah.
And so I think perhaps we can bring that consciousness up to, like you were talking about with COVID.
Yeah.
It's, it's a choice on my perception of how I'm going to, rise above a challenging situation, no matter what the challenging
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Rico, I am so excited that you joined me tonight. I've had such a blast talking with you. And we do need to talk about doing a workshop together. Hang on after we get off, because I want to chat a little bit more. But yeah, we're going to be on here all night. But I really am excited that you were on here. I've had a blast talking with you, and I look forward to us doing something else together. And
I'm honored. Me too.
make sure you join me next Tuesday night. Same Facebook page, but for my new show, Disrupt Your Now. And
I love it.
Day or two, and I will have on my Facebook page the information about my guest, the military spouse who's going to be my guest next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody. See you then.
See you then. Thank you.
Bye.